Hello Figgy Fiends and Collectors, this is me, Daniel Yslamir, back again with a new Star Wars The Black Series figure review. Today we're going to be having a look at Heir to the Empire, Luke Skywalker. If you do want to see my initial unboxing video for all the figures that came in this exclusive set of comic book figures, by all means click the link up there just to see my initial reaction to these. So let's get into it. Like with all these comic book figures, they come in this sort of like book style packaging, of which is different to the typical Black Series boxes we now get. Very, very fancy comic book cover art from Heir to the Empire, which is what this figure is effectively celebrating. It's Luke with Ysalamiri. I don't know how to pronounce it. If anyone wants to correct me, feel free to do so. Basically, it's a little fella that Thrawn uses in the comic to deflect Force users. Lovely, lovely, beautiful packaging artwork. Gorgeous, iconic imagery there. To the equally iconic story that is Heir to the Empire, which is where we first met Thrawn, who was the main antagonist, really, of that series. Very, very retro looking, very, very Dark Horse era, of which is really cool to me in this day and age with the Disney and, you know, Lucasfilm agreement. You know, legends were sort of thought to be almost forgotten, and well, legends do indeed live on. So it's really cool to see both companies and Hasbro themselves acknowledge this, because for the longest time after episode 6, there was no real talks about other films being made. The only way Star Wars really lived on was through video games, books, and comics. So for Hasbro to acknowledge within the 50th anniversary of Lucasfilm the comic book side of things is just really, really cool to me, and I like it. I like it a lot. Heir to the Empire Luke. If we look on the spine there, you've got Luke Skywalker and Ysalamiri, picture of Luke there, Star Wars The Black Series. All around the spine of the box, you've got comic book stills and frames running all around it, which looks absolutely awesome. I love that. And a bit of a tip of the hat to Star Wars Past. On the back, you've got the 50th anniversary of Lucasfilm timeline there. This obviously falls under Legend, so it's highlighted as such. Bit of a bio on the 50th anniversary of Lucasfilm. A ton of legal garb, which we've all come to love and know. Then on the inside, you've got a bit of a Velcro sticky there, which you open up. You obviously would be greeted by the figure in this typical Star Wars The Black Series box. But then on this pull-out section, you've got a bit of a bio on the character, obviously, of Luke Skywalker, and of the Ysalamiri, of which you can have a little read about in the bio down below there. But obviously you've got some frames from the comics as well to accompany that. So I think the packaging on these figures are absolutely outstanding. They're gorgeous, very, very retro, and very nostalgic, I'm sure, for most people. So that's the packaging out the way and done with. Onto the figure itself, of which I really don't have much to say about this. I've tried recording this review and I draw a blank, honestly. Here it is. Luke. Like with all the figures in this assortment, they basically do have a bit of a reuse of previous existing figures, a bit of mix and matching. This figure in particular does reuse the Dagobah Luke Skywalker sculpt, except it's painted in black. Everything else is the same, except it has a different lightsaber, being more the Return of the Jedi lightsaber, and the only other inclusion is, of course, the Ysalamiri, of which, for me, was the main selling point. 24 quid for this. I know I'm nuts, but this was one of the key things that I felt the archive line Thrawn was missing, and this is obviously sculpted for him as well, because if you put it over Luke's shoulder, and I don't think he really did it in the comics either, it does sit, but it's clearly not intended for him. So I'm kind of at a loss as to why they didn't just, rather than doing an archive Thrawn, just release Thrawn in this sort of box and include him with this, or, you know, do a bit of a retweak to Thrawn and have him as his more comic book look with the little, you know, fancies on his shoulders, look a bit more astutely generally. I don't know, probably because of tooling and whatnot, and this was an easier option, and just to throw this in as an add-on. But I personally would have liked it if it was Thrawn packed in this. That's just me personally. Either way, I'm glad they have done this figure, but it is a little bit sneaky, a little bit cheapy, but that's fair enough because Hasbro does sometimes have to do releases like these. They do have to make use of their sculpts, and this does certainly work. I mean, it does look like the Luke on the box, other than the fact in terms of the accessory of the lightsaber, A little bit of a nitpick. He does wield, I believe, in this comic book series, a blue lightsaber. Of course, they've given him a green one, but I'm sure you can easily change that if you're really that bothered. Feel free to correct me on that, because I haven't really read the comic, but from the imagery that they show on the front and on the insert of this box, he's got the blue lightsaber. But nonetheless, you know, Luke did have a green lightsaber after Return of the Jedi, whatever. It's a lightsaber. Luke's got a lightsaber. It'd be kind of stupid if he didn't. Okay, fair point. In terms of the lightsaber, it does do what other lightsabers do. You can remove that from the hilt, like so. The hilt doesn't really have anywhere to be displayed on the figure. Nonetheless, there really is nothing much to say other than it's Dagobah Luke in black. It has the same articulation. There's not really too much weathering or paint going on. There's some slight variation in terms of the legs, mainly in the boots. They're a bit more of a browny black. Even the head sculpt, there's nothing really different about that from the Dagobah Luke. But yeah, that's Luke. I've kind of got him posed up as how he looks on the front of that comic book cover. In terms of his articulation, he has a ball joint in the head, a ball joint in the neck so he can look really far down, ball jointed shoulders, ball jointed elbows, ball jointed wrists, ball jointed torso, ball jointed hips, swivels at the tops of the thighs, ball jointed knees, and ball jointed ankles on rocker joints. So you can get this guy in some really, really good poses. That's it. There's really nothing much to talk about in terms of this guy. It's Luke. It's a different look of Luke. That's probably enough for some people to buy it. I would only really recommend this if you are a bit of a die-hard Heir to the Empire fan. That, or you're really desperate for a Ysalamiri. Other than that, it's an easy skip, really, if you're not too bothered about the figure or this. It's not the weakest out of the four that they've done. It's just a little bit cheeky. And like I said, a little bit cheeky isn't bad because Hasbro do have to utilise some of their sculpts sometimes. They do have to make the money on it, recoup some costs on some of the upcoming figures they probably have planned and the new sculpts they're doing for that. It is what it is, and I'm fine with it. I'm glad I've got it. I feel like I'd probably prefer it in the box, although I can't really do that because I want this on Thrawn. The struggles of being a collector kind of deal, I suppose, but I'm glad I have it in my collection. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Is this FIGGIE worth it or nah? I'm curious to hear what you think. So this is me, Daniel East 1000, signing out, and thank you very much for watching.